Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, uncharted forest, dark, whispering, alive with secrets. This is the human psyche, a place Carl Jung, the pioneering Swiss psychiatrist, spent his life mapping. We all know the ache of holding on to something, a memory, a person, a regret, that feels like it's stitched into our very being. Why is letting go so hard? Jung offers us a lantern to navigate this question, revealing that the roots of our attachments lie not in the world outside, but in the shadowed corners within. In this essay, I'll unravel Jung's profound insights to explain why we can't let go, breaking it into clear stages: the unconscious, the shadow, individuation, and the path to release. Let's step into the labyrinth together. Why you can't let go. The unconscious unveiled. Picture your mind as a divided realm, a fragile kingdom where the conscious self sits on a shaky throne, believing it rules, while beneath it sprawls the unconscious, a vast and shadowed sovereign that holds the true reins. Carl Jung, the visionary who dared to map this inner wilderness, saw this split as the crux of our human struggle. In his haunting words, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And here lies the quiet, stubborn root of why letting go feels impossible, not because of what we see, but because of what we don't. Think back to a moment that clings to you like a second skin. Maybe it's a breakup that replays in your mind like a broken record, or a failure that stings long after the wound should have healed. On the surface, it's about that person who walked away, that chance you let slip. But Jung would pull us deeper, past the obvious, into the murkier waters of the soul. He'd say the unconscious isn't just holding on to these moments, it's clutching them with purpose, weaving them into a tapestry of meaning we rarely unravel. That breakup isn't just a goodbye. It's a thread tied to a childhood fear of being left behind, a silent echo of a time you felt unseen or unloved. That failure isn't just a misstep. It's a mirror reflecting a buried belief that you'll never measure up, a whisper from the depths that you've carried far too long. We don't let go because we're caught in a dance with a partner we can't name. The unconscious doesn't merely store these emotions, it breathes life into them, turning fleeting moments into symbols of our unresolved needs. It's a hidden puppeteer, pulling strings we mistake for destiny, convincing us that this ache, this longing, is simply how life must be. A lost love becomes a shrine to our fear of abandonment. A stumble becomes proof of our inadequacy. And yet we stay blind to the script, calling it fate when it's really a story we've yet to read. Jung's insight cuts like a blade through this illusion. What we don't see controls us. The unconscious thrives in the dark, shrouding its influence in mystery, and letting go demands that we light a torch. It's not enough to mourn the loss or curse the failure. We must ask what they mean, what they reveal about the parts of us we've ignored. Why does that goodbye still echo? What old wound does that fall awaken? The answers lie not in the event, but in the shadows it casts. Shadows we've let rule us, masquerading as an unchangeable past. To let go, Jung whispers, is to turn inward, to face the unseen sovereign and claim the life it's quietly stolen. The shadow, the hidden self we cling to. If the unconscious is the darkened stage of our inner world, then the shadow is the enigmatic actor Jung set at its heart, a figure cloaked in silence, embodying all we've banished from the light. This shadow isn't merely a flaw or a fault. It's the sum of everything we reject about ourselves. Our raw anger, our gnawing shame, the weaknesses we mask, the desires we judge too dark to claim. And when we find ourselves unable to let go of something outside us, a person, a grudge, a fading dream, Jung whispers that it's not the thing itself we're holding, but a projection of this hidden self, cast onto the world like a shadow stretching long in the dusk. Picture a friendship you can't shake, even though it poisons you, drop by drop. On the surface, it's about loyalty, habit, or fear of being alone. But Jung would urge you to look closer. What if that desperate grip mirrors an unacknowledged hunger for approval, a need you've buried so deep you're ashamed to name it? Or think of a resentment that burns quietly years after the wound was struck. You tell yourself it's about justice, But what if it reflects a rage you've locked away, a fury you pretend isn't yours? These things we can't release aren't just burdens. They're mirrors, held up by the shadow to show us the face we've turned away from. That toxic bond, that simmering bitterness. They're not the story's end, but its beginning, pointing to a part of you crying for recognition. Letting go, then, isn't a simple act of dropping what weighs us down. It's a reckoning. Jung called this integration, the brave, trembling work of welcoming the shadow home. To release that friendship, you'd have to face the approval you crave and see it not as weakness, but as human. To free that resentment, you'd have to own the rage, not as a sin, but as a fire that's yours to tend. Without this, the attachment lingers, festering like an untended wound. A quiet, stubborn rebellion against the self-awareness Jung believed we're born to pursue. The shadow doesn't just hold us back, it holds us accountable, daring us to look into its eyes and claim what we've disowned. Until we do, what we can't let go of remains a silent pact with the parts of us we refuse to love. Individuation, the journey that demands release. Imagine life as a winding path toward wholeness, a pilgrimage Carl Jung named individuation, the sacred, arduous quest to weave together every thread of the self. The light we proudly display, and the shadow we shrink from, the conscious mind we steer, and the unconscious depths that steer us. It's a journey without end, a becoming that unfolds human, calls us to shed what no longer serves us. And here's where the road twists. Letting go stands as a pivotal milestone, a threshold we must cross to grow. Yet this is no gentle step. It's a leap that shakes us to our core. To release something woven into our days, a grudge we've nursed like an ember, a dream we've cradled through sleepless nights, or a role we've worn like a second skin, feels like carving out a piece of who we are. Jung understood this terror, this visceral pull to cling tight. He saw it as the ego's fierce grip, a sentinel standing guard over the familiar, trembling at the thought of the unknown. To let go is to step into a void, to risk losing the ground beneath us. And the ego, ever the protector, whispers that this loss will unravel us. But Jung saw beyond this fear, beckoning us to reframe the act. What if letting go isn't a diminishment, but a liberation? Picture a seed, small and unassuming, locked within its shell. It cannot rise into the towering tree it's meant to be until it surrenders that casing, cracking open, shedding what once kept it safe. So it is with us. The grudges, the dreams, the masks we clutch, they're old skins, husks that once shielded us but now confine us. To let them fall is to make space for something greater, to stretch into the fuller self that individuation promises. Yet the struggle persists, a quiet war within. The ego tugs us back, chaining us to what we know, while the soul calls us forward, yearning for evolution. This tension, Jung knew, is the crucible of growth, a dance between holding on and breaking free, where every release is a step toward becoming whole. The path to letting go, facing what persists. So how do we unshackle ourselves from the chains we can't seem to drop? Carl Jung offers a quiet, piercing truth. What you resist persists. It's a simple phrase, but it cuts to the heart of our struggle. The harder we push against our attachments, the more fiercely they dig in, like roots breaking through stone. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a still sea, trying to hold a beach ball beneath the waves. You press down with all your might, but it fights back, bobbing up again and again, relentless in its refusal to sink. That's the nature of what we cling to. Our resistance only fuels its return. Letting go, Jung teaches, isn't about force or flight. It begins with a turn inward, a willingness to face what we spent so long pushing away. He'd sit us down like a wise friend and ask us to look, not at the surface of our grip, but at its roots. What does this thing you can't release mean to you? What does it whisper in the quiet of your soul? If it's a past love you can't shake, maybe it's not just about them. It's a lifeline to a security you've never found elsewhere, a tether to a warmth you fear you'll never feel again. If it's a grudge you nurse like a flickering flame, Perhaps it's less about the wrong done to you and more about a shield, a brittle armor guarding you from the vulnerability you dread. These attachments aren't random. They're signposts, pointing to fears and longings we've buried deep, locked away in the unconscious where they pull the strings unseen. The path forward lies in this act of illumination. Jung believed that to make the unconscious conscious is to loosen its hold, to trade its silent tyranny for understanding. Shine a light on those questions. Sit with them, let them breathe, and something shifts. That old love becomes less a loss and more a mirror, reflecting a need you can now meet yourself. That grudge softens, not into forgiveness forced too soon, but into a recognition of the strength beneath your guard. Letting go stops being a battle, a desperate severing of ties. It unfurls like a slow dawn, a gentle unraveling of threads you finally learned to read. In facing what persists, we don't just release it, we reclaim it, turning the weight we carried into wisdom we can hold. This journey through Jung's ideas reveals a simple yet profound truth. We can't let go because we haven't yet seen what we're truly holding, a fragment of our own soul waiting to be reclaimed. As Jung so beautifully put it, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Our attachments transform us, but only if we dare to meet them fully. I'm deeply thankful for the chance to share this exploration with you, inspired by Jung's enduring light. I wish you courage and peace as you navigate your own shadows. If these insights struck a chord, I warmly invite you to support the Light Through Shadows channel, a community dedicated to illuminating the path to wholeness. Thank you for walking this road with me. May we all find grace in letting go.